All right, so let's get to some TV shows, including Amazon's big show, The Boys Season 3 wrapped up its 8-episode run over the weekend with an explosive finale. Not everyone's likely had the chance to see all of Season 3, so we're going to do our best to sort of like talk around the spoilers for the season. But Art, overall, where did you land on Season 3 of The Boys?
Pretty good. I think we started off pretty rocky with it, wondering if it was going to be like a lot of the recent series that we've gotten where they're on their third season. We've had a lot of third seasons this year, and you start feeling not necessarily that you don't like the show, but that you've gotten used to the show. It's like, how many times can the boys be surprising, right? It's like, how many crazy VFX shots?
How shocking is it the 15th time you see someone's brain splatter across the screen, you know?
Pretty interesting, according to the boys. I think they're able to find new things that other people aren't able to do or get away with on their show. And I find it fascinating that they've said this is the one time where they've had to put a warning on a specific episode, and it was the Hero-gasm episode. That in all the previous seasons, they've never had to censor themselves or do any of that, but this was the one time for this season that they wanted to go all out. They claimed they lost blood by season 3, like the blood to spray on everybody. They went full Tarantino, and by episode 3 they were completely done with it. And I would say it shows on screen. I'd say this is the bloodiest season. I'd say this has the most twists and turns, but I wouldn't say it's the best season they've had so far, except for one person. Anthony Starr has freaking killed it, and I believe that he should be pushed for awards because this is the best he's ever been as Homelander. It is. He's really so great. Effective as Homelander, Zach, that it took 3 seasons for people to realize what the show was about.
Yeah, I don't know what show those people were watching, because I felt like we got it a lot earlier, but yeah, clearly a lot of people didn't really see quite how bad Homelander was. You don't see the producers?
Like, I don't... You're right, but you don't need any of that. Did you pay attention to the show, the episodes?
Right.
He is the most fantastic he's ever been.
He's so good.
Yeah.
And I think it's really I don't want to say almost entirely, but I would say largely in his credit that Homelander has remained interesting through these 3 seasons, right? Like that he hasn't been a one-dimensional villain.
I agree with you.
A lot of that is in that performance.
Dude, I get bored with some of these other characters when they get their times alone. I'm never bored when Homelander's on screen, so I agree 100%.
Yeah. There other characters, though, speaking of them, I do kind of miss Huey and Starlight and their presence on the show. I feel like they were both sidelined a little bit this season. And I think there's something about the heart that they bring and the idea that they're the ones who are ultimately becoming morally compromised along the way that I liked. Like, otherwise, The Boys is largely a show of people who are already like fully morally compromised and fully aware of the evil around them. And yeah, I guess, you know, they've been through a lot, but they're just so much the heart and the like the release of tension for the first 2 seasons of that show that I think I missed a little bit of that this year. I think that this is my least favorite season of The Boys, even though like there's still a lot of stuff I found really fun and cool. I think maybe I didn't, especially where it ended up, it lost a little bit of steam for me. I don't know how much of the comics you've read, but I'm curious, like, why the show doesn't want to kill off some of these characters, because there's something that happens in the finale that very easily could have just ended a couple of those stories, and instead they choose not to. Like, is this a comic book thing that I just don't get because I don't read comic books?
No, because I would say season 4 of Stranger Things is the same thing, and those showrunners just came out and admitted to it. You're asking me? Stranger Things gave the same reason for why Jurassic World Dominion did. A bunch of writers saw the state of the world when they were writing and said, let's not fully go and kill certain characters. And I think that's why they're alive. Give it a week and I'll send you the article where one of the writers goes, and that's the reason why we kept so-and-so alive.
Exactly.
That's what we got for Dominion. That's what we got for Stranger Things. Yeah. I think we'll get into a point once everyone's happy again that we'll see more people die, Zach. But I agree with you. There are a bunch of characters where it's like, just tie it up. Like they're good to go. It's an okay thing to say goodbye to your fictional characters. I've read the comics, and I will just say that the comics are a lot edgier, way edgier. Yeah. The comics definitely have. There's one thing with The Boys. I think The Boys does a really good job at like focusing on one side and making fun of it to the point that that side didn't know they were being made fun of. And I think it makes fun of, politics on both angles, even when it doesn't realize it's doing so. And I think the book 100% goes at like everything. And the pendulums, I think, may be swinging for the show. Because so far, I think it's been easy targets, especially in the last episode. You're getting so many things that you can finish the quote on what they're referencing by the end of it, Yeah. It's not like in Atlanta when you saw that episode with the little boy and you're like, why does this feel eerily familiar? There are episodes of The Boy where I was like, I know exactly what news headline they're talking about here.
Exactly. I think there's something to be said for a little bit more subtlety in the real world commentary, right? Like you want to be like, oh, what's that about? Or you want to have to think on it a little bit.
It's one for one.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's like the Imagine video. Like you could have done something that's really, really similar with a different song, right? Like you don't have to literally do Imagine.
My man, it felt like elements from the movie Don't Look Up, where you're like, yes, no, that is exactly, you just did nothing for it in your own universe. You just literally tit for tat copied what a meme would be, without the context that I think that make the first 2 seasons of The Boys so good, that made those first 2 seasons dupable on some people, and now season 3 was so in your face that some people realize what it's all about. I'm still intrigued. I think they're setting up for what's going to be a crazy season 4. Some team members get rearranged.
And they've also got this spin-off of sorts coming. What do you know about Varsity?
Dude, so we already had a spin-off, which is why I find it crazy that we really don't pay attention to all this stuff Prime has. Yeah. Prime already had the animated one called Diabolical. They've been talking about having this new one called Varsity that I think is supposed to be live action, because I think the other one wasn't paid attention to because it was all cartoons. But there are some episodes of the Diabolical one that's out right now that answers stuff about Black Noir and Homelander. And they want you to see that. This new spinoff is supposed to, I don't even know, dude. I have no idea. They might change it. It's supposed to be more like a crossover. It's funny because it's starting to remind me of the CW shows and all the crossovers that they do. And I'm like, again, with such a meta show, at what point are you going to become part of the joke that you're making fun of?
Right.
We'll see.
When are you a parody or are you the thing that you're parodying? And
when
can
do
you be
become
both
Colin
simultaneously?
Trevorrow? Exactly, yeah. But they got a spin-off like a bunch of other shows do, especially on Prime, because this is their bread and butter. I think a lot of people don't pay attention to what's on Prime except for probably Invincible when that returns, and every single season of The Boys. It's the only thing they got right now, so we'll see. I'm curious to see what other people think about it. I'd seen Devesh had said something interesting earlier about how they've been running the show. Some shows have a season 3 that shakes everything up, like Barry. I think you and I would agree that that's a very good season 3. Some just stick to their strengths and run with it, which is The Boys. I would also throw in Umbrella Academy. I can't really say that they've done anything new or anything bad. They just know what they're good at, and
for sure,
you can't praise it for being better than the previous.
For sure. Devesh said, thoughts on Black Noir's Roger Rabbit. There's a bit of like combining of live action and animation that goes on season 3. Did you enjoy those sequences?
I did. I just wish we knew more about them, and that's part of what I was telling you about Diabolical.
Yeah, it does feel a little like out of nowhere almost. I mean, it's cute,
interesting, but where did this come from? And Zach, you can't be making fun of Marvel, who's got the what if thing that you got to watch to understand what they're going to do in the movies when you're doing the exact same thing. So we'll see how the spin-offs go.
Absolutely.